Good morning, friends. Welcome to the Immanuel 10 at 10. We are reading through the Bible together in 2021 using the One Year Chronological Bible. You can find the plan and read along on the YouVersion app or www.bible.com. We've also posted it on our website, our monthly newsletter, and our weekly email, as well as on a table on the church in the church library. It'll be great. It's really wonderful being able to read together through the whole Bible this year, together in hope. Well, this week we heard the rest of the story of Joseph in Genesis, and then what happens after his whole family comes to Egypt. Joseph's dreams came true. His brothers came to Egypt to buy grain during the famine, and they all bowed down to him. He didn't tell them who he was at first, but he found out that his father and his brother Benjamin were still alive. Joseph claimed that the brothers were spies and kept Simeon in Egypt, insisting that they bring Benjamin back to prove that their story was true. He secretly had all their money put back in their sacks with the grain. His brothers were alarmed when they found the money. When the grain ran out, Jacob reluctantly allowed them to take Benjamin back with them, along with double the money. The Egyptian manager, however, claimed that God must have put the money back in their sacks. Joseph threw a feast for them and gave Benjamin 5 times as much food as everyone else. When they headed back home, their money was again placed back in their sacks. Joseph's silver cup, which he said helped him predict the future, was also placed in Benjamin's sack. The brothers were brought back before Joseph, and he finally revealed who he was. His brothers were afraid, but Joseph forgave them and insisted that God had sent him ahead of them to save their lives and the lives of many others. He told them to bring Jacob and the rest of their family to Egypt so that he could provide for them for the rest of the 7-year famine. When Jacob died, Joseph's brothers were afraid that he would finally take revenge on them. They made up a story about Jacob asking them to ask Joseph to forgive them, but Joseph had done so already. He reassured them that though they meant it for evil, God intended it for good, to save many people. God is even able to work through our suffering and pain for his good purposes. The cross of Christ is the ultimate example of that. Well, after finishing Genesis, rather than going straight into the book of Exodus, the chronological Bible takes us next to Job. The book of Job starts and ends with a story in prose, but most of the book is written in poetry. It's a lengthy debate about the meaning of suffering and the nature of God. It poses questions about justice, faith, moral behavior, and the problem of evil. We don't know for sure when Job was written or who wrote it. Job is one of the 3 books of wisdom in the Bible, along with Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Proverbs asserts that God is wise and just, and people get what is coming to them for their deeds. Ecclesiastes, however, points out that people don't always get what they deserve and that life is unpredictable and hard to understand, which makes us wonder whether God is wise and just. The book of Job explores the tension between those lines of thinking. The Bible Project has some very helpful videos that explain the themes of each wisdom book and how they connect with each other. I've put a link to their video on Job in the description below. Job was a rich man who lived in the land of Uz, somewhere to the east of Israel. Even though he was a righteous man who feared God, Job lost all his flocks and herds and all his children in a single disastrous day. Then he lost his health as well, becoming covered with sores. He sat in ashes, a sign of sorrow and contrition, and scraped himself with a shard of broken pottery to try and get some relief. Job had 3 friends who heard about his suffering and came to sit with him for 7 days and nights without saying a word. That was the kindest thing they did for Job, just being there with him. When people are suffering, they don't need words of explanation or blame. They just need someone to walk with them. Job did not curse God as his wife encouraged him to do, but he finally cursed the day of his birth, wishing that he had never been born. Then his friends spoke up, one after another, and accused Job of somehow having earned the suffering that he was experiencing. That was a common belief then, just as it is today for many people, that people get what they deserve. What goes around comes around, right? You do bad things, and bad things will happen to you. If you do good things, and good things will happen to you. Well, Job's friends figured that Job must have done something terrible to bring God's wrath down on him. It's the age old question: why do bad things happen to good people? Job's friends concluded that Job must have sinned and offended God and needed to confess his sin so he could be restored. But neither they nor Job knew that Job's suffering was the result of a debate in heaven. In the opening scene of the book, God was speaking to the heavenly beings, including one called the Satan, a title which means one who is opposed. God called his attention to Job, who was living an upright life. Satan claimed that the only reason Job was honoring God was that God had rewarded him. He suggested that Job was just obeying God to get what he wanted. So God allowed Satan to take it all away: Job's flocks and herds and servants, his children, and then even his health. Job still praised God, at least at first. He said, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." People talk about the patience of Job going through all this suffering without complaining. But that only lasts for a little while. Later on, Job wished that he had never been born. When his friends spoke up, they claimed that Job must be getting what he deserved. God is fair and just, they argued. He doesn't punish the innocent. So they speculated about what sorts of sins Job or his children must have committed. But Job was innocent. God himself said so in the opening scene. Throughout the book, Job is on an emotional roller coaster and lashes out at his so called friends. He calls them miserable comforters and blind fools. He complains about his suffering and agony. He sometimes agrees that God is in control of the world, but then at other times he accuses God of being unfair and reckless. He wishes that God would just put him out of his misery. Job gives voice to many of our own hidden thoughts and fears. He wants to argue his case with God. He demands that God come and defend himself. Well, over the next few days, we'll hear the rest of Job's story. I'll give you a sneak peek. In tomorrow's reading, Job wishes he had an advocate. He says, "Even now, my witness is in heaven, my advocate is on high. My intercessor is my friend as my eyes pour out tears to God. On behalf of a man, he pleads with God as one pleads for a friend. I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God." Job seems to be given a vision that looks so far ahead to Jesus. We do have an advocate before the Father, a Redeemer who sets us free, who raises us from the dead. He has conquered the forces of suffering and death by going through it himself. What Job has experienced, Jesus has endured. So this week, may you be comforted. Whatever you're going through, whatever hardship you're enduring or have gone through in your life, Jesus is right there. He's with you through it all. And he promises that evil and suffering and pain won't have the last word, that he does, that he will restore all things. And that's the kind of perspective that we need to have, and that Job eventually gains himself. Thanks for listening today. It's great to be reading together. I hope that you'll join us this weekend for worship at 8:30 and 10:45, and our adult class resumes using the Bible Project's videos at 9:45 in the social hall at the same time as our Sunday school classes. Also, this tomorrow on Saturday, we are going to be hosting an online viewing of uh, Promise Keepers Men's Marriage Summit. So, any guys out there that want to join us, you can join us at 9 o'clock rather than 8 o'clock, is when Men of Manual usually meets. We're going to meet at 9 o'clock in the social hall to watch this marriage summit together from 10 o'clock until noon. So, you're welcome to join us for that, guys. Or you can sign up to watch it right online yourself just by going to promisekeepers.org and looking for the Men's Marriage Summit. Have a great week. See you soon.